Hong Kong's economic story has long revolved around Victoria Harbour. For generations, the city's identity has been defined by its role as a concentrated global financial hub, with energy, capital, and talent flowing toward the harbour and the core business districts around it. But the real story of Hong Kong's future may lie beyond the harbour. It may lie in the north. The Northern Metropolis is often described as a giant urban development plan, a housing strategy, or a land supply project. But that description is far too narrow. The Northern Metropolis is better understood as a once-in-a-generation attempt to rewire Hong Kong's economic DNA. It is a blueprint for how the city can survive, diversify, and grow in the 21st century. To understand why this matters, we need to begin with two simple but powerful realities: geography and friction. First, geography. Hong Kong is not an island economy in any meaningful strategic sense. It is deeply connected to mainland China, and especially to Shenzhen, one of the world's most dynamic centers for advanced manufacturing, commercial technology, and supply chain speed. The border between Hong Kong and Shenzhen may be a legal and administrative boundary, but it is not a physical truth that can erase proximity. That proximity is one of Hong Kong's greatest structural advantages. Second, friction. In economics, value is often unlocked not just by what a place has, but by how easily resources can move. People, goods, capital, data, and ideas all slow down when they encounter barriers. Those barriers can be physical, digital, regulatory, or institutional. The core promise of the Northern Metropolis is that it can become a friction-light interface between two highly complementary systems. Hong Kong brings international capital, common law credibility, intellectual property protection, deep financial services, and strong universities with world-class research. Shenzhen brings rapid prototyping, industrial capability, manufacturing scale, and fast commercialization. If those strengths can be connected with much less friction, then the result is not just steady growth, it is the possibility of exponential value creation. But building roads, railways, and industrial parks is only half the challenge. The real mission is to build an ecosystem that can sustain itself. History shows that innovation clusters do not emerge simply because planners draw lines on a map. They grow when enough economic mass is concentrated to create a kind of gravity. That means the strategy cannot rely on scattered incentives and slow incremental uptake. It needs asymmetric concentration. The government and key institutions need to attract a handful of major anchor tenants into the Northern Metropolis. These could be global artificial intelligence leaders, world-class biomedical institutes, or major electric vehicle and advanced manufacturing players. Once large anchor institutions commit, they create confidence. Venture capital follows. Specialized lawyers and accountants follow. Logistics firms follow. Suppliers follow. And critically, talent follows. That is how a construction zone becomes an innovation engine. Still, there is an old urban problem that could sabotage the whole vision if it is not solved early: the jobs-housing imbalance. If the people expected to work in the Northern Metropolis still need to travel long distances every day from Kowloon or Hong Kong Island, the ecosystem will leak time, energy, and eventually talent. Housing in the north, therefore, cannot be treated only as a land revenue question. It is economic infrastructure. Affordable, high-density, transit-oriented living close to jobs, universities, and research facilities is essential if this new geography is going to work. Looking ahead, the development of the Northern Metropolis is likely to unfold in phases. The first phase, from now through the late 2020s, is really about digital and regulatory infrastructure. The rail lines and major physical assets will take time, so the fastest wins need to come from soft infrastructure. legally trusted data corridors, more seamless cross-border capital clearing, and practical mutual recognition of professional qualifications, especially in zones such as Hatao. If friction can be reduced digitally and institutionally now, economic activity can begin before the entire physical build-out is complete. The second phase, likely in the early 2030s, is when physical convergence begins to matter much more. As the Northern Link matures and industrial clusters like Hung Shui-Q and San-Tin become more operational, the city's economic map starts to change. Hong Kong becomes less monocentric and more polycentric. Instead of everything pointing towards central, new horizontal networks begin to matter more, connecting university towns, research parks, and Shenzhen's production ecosystems. The third phase is maturity and resilience. By the mid-2030s, if the strategy works, the Northern Metropolis becomes a distributed network rather than a single-point dependency. That matters because the world is becoming more volatile. Geopolitical pressures, supply chain disruptions, and policy shocks are not theoretical risks anymore. A resilient economic system is one that can reroute activity through alternate digital channels, financial pathways, and external partnerships when one route is disrupted. And that brings us to the biggest risks. The first is geopolitical and regulatory friction. If data flows tighten, capital mobility is constrained, or talent movement becomes harder, the Northern Metropolis loses much of its core advantage. The second is execution risk. Major infrastructure delays can destroy confidence, especially for early movers who commit capital before the ecosystem is fully formed. So what is the answer? Redundancy and anchoring. Hong Kong needs deeper integration with the Greater Bay Area, but it also needs to preserve and strengthen distinct links with ASEAN, the Middle East, and Europe. At the same time, securing major anchor tenants can create a stable base of demand and credibility, even during broader uncertainty. For policymakers, the message is clear. Treat soft infrastructure with the same urgency as concrete and steel. For professional services firms, the biggest opportunity may be in helping international legal and financial systems connect with mainland innovation and commercialization. For developers, the value is not only in office towers, but in mixed-use collision spaces where talent can live, work, and connect. And for technology and innovation firms, the window to secure the best positions in the emerging ecosystem may be open right now, before the market becomes crowded. The Northern Metropolis is not simply a new district on the map. It is a strategic attempt to reshape how Hong Kong creates value. It reflects a recognition that the city cannot rely forever on the legacy formulas of the past. If Hong Kong can reduce cross-border friction, concentrate enough value to trigger powerful network effects, and build the housing, regulation, and connectivity needed to support talent at scale, then the Northern Metropolis could become the blueprint for a new era of growth. In that sense, the future of Hong Kong may not be defined by looking back at the harbor that built its past, but by building the northern engine that can power its future. If you found this episode useful, please like, share, and subscribe to the XFO Intelligence podcast channel. For feedback, or if you'd like more information about our new Thought Leadership on Demand service, email us at xfointelligence@gmail.com. Disclaimer: this podcast is for general informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute investment, legal, policy, or professional advice. Views expressed are interpretive and should be assessed alongside your own independent analysis.